Alrighty, folks, we're going to have one of those adult conversations. We're going to talk about something you probably don't want to talk about, but you need to understand. And that is recessions are a natural part of a business cycle. It is how they end. And if you want, also how they begin. Because again, good times never last, bad times never last. We're going to talk with the one and only Anna, REI Mom Kelly. She and I had been through the wars, the dot-com crash, the Great Recession, all of these things. We are prepared. We've been talking about it for a while, but for some of you, this is going to be your first recession. So we thought we should just slow down, tell you the normal part of the process and things that we recommend getting started. Anna, we're going to live through another one.
Yes, we are, if we're not already in it. And I think that we are,
Me too. I think it started in
it's
Q2.
interesting because so many people are like, are we in a recession or are we not? And just as, to start off, the NBER that dates recessions typically doesn't do them until 6 months after the recession has started. And sometimes you're already out of it before they say, oh yeah, we were in a recession. So it doesn't matter the
Very true.
technicality of whether you're in and out, whether it's actually declared a recession. What you can look at is that the general indicators about the health of the economy that indicate slowing down, negative growth, all of those things, 9 out of 10 of those indicators are in recessionary territory. The economy's slowing down. We've just come out of inflation. We're starting to see layoffs and wages coming down a bit. We're starting to see a reduction in production and spending and manufacturing and
And lending.
transportation, lending, all of those things that kind of generally indicate economic health. And to your point, at the end of every cycle, every economy, every business cycle starts out kind of in a slow recovery from the last recession. Then you have a period of growth, and then you peak, the economy overheats, you often end up with a little inflation, and then you start to have some contraction, and it ends usually in a recession. If you don't technically have a recession, they'll call this a soft landing. You could get really slow but not quite recession, but it's still painful during the contraction. You bottom out and you come back again. So don't freak out because you hear the word recession. Oh no. But at the same time, you have to watch the signs and do some things to prepare yourself to get through it, because it will be a short period, hopefully a short period, where you will have some economic pain, not just, in the stock market, but in your own household budget as well. So you've got to be prepared. Don't put blinders on, don't panic, but do some steps that prepare you to be able to get through it and come out on the other side stronger.
Yeah, I think, what I've always told people is I hope you live through 4 or 5 recessions. I mean, that just means you lived a long life, right? Because they're just part of it, right? They come every 8 to 15 years. This has been a long growth, but they come. They should be expected. Generally
Absolutely.
speaking, recessions are shorter, right? 9 to 18, 24 months on the long end. The bull runs are 8 to 10 years, sometimes longer, but they are normal.
Yes.
So that's kind of step one, right? If you, let's pretend, I mean, shoot, you could be 30 years old and this is your first real recession, right? The
Right.
COVID recession is not, we're not talking about that. Um,
Right.
so if you're 30 years old, right, you're at one of these companies, your company is not growing, they're starting to have layoffs. What I always tell people to do is, if you can, get as close you can to revenue. And I'm not talking revenue as far as like new products and like the future of their company nonsense. That stuff will be cut in a heartbeat. But just go get back to the core business, core revenue. And the closer you are to revenue and being a positive contributor, the better chances you have of not being one of the folks laid off. What do you think of that?
Absolutely, because when the economy is starting to struggle, corporations have to realize we need to get lean. We need to start cutting some costs. So anything that's like in the future, R&D, things that are for a future product that they may not need today, they're going to think about laying you off. If you have a job that's kind of fluff or they hired up for future things, they're going to lay you off. To your point about revenue, you know, when I worked for AIG and when everything kind of hit the fan in 2008 and 2009, I was in the most profitable business unit in our company. And so that really helped. We were a lean, small unit, but we were very close to major profits because we catered to ultra high net worth individuals and, you know, banks and corporations. And so I kept being told, you're probably going to be laid off. Like, we're going to have lots and lots and lots of layoffs. And that recession was also the Great Recession, and AIG was in the news. But because of the department that I worked in and the type of job I had security, and I never lost my job. So if you can be malleable and you can, you know, move, you know, choose certain positions within the company, you definitely want to be working in an area that is definitely profitable for the company.
Yeah. The other thing to kind of think about as an individual is I would definitely look at what debts you have. This is not a time to have credit card debt, right? 18%, you know, 20%, whatever it is. We've always got to get rid of that, but heading into a bad cycle, that just becomes more and more painful. You know, Dave Ramsey, for all the headaches he has around real estate investing, he can certainly help you get out of debt and you know, provides a lot of value for folks there.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's funny because a lot of real estate investors say, oh, Dave is, you know, he doesn't know what he's talking about. For 70% of the population that's in debt and that doesn't have a second income, doesn't have real estates, et cetera, he's very, very good, you know, to help
Absolutely.
you to live below your means, get out of debt. And then once you're in a comfortable position, you can take on debt to buy real estate and things like that. I actually did his Financial Peace University and taught that at my church. And it really helped me because in an expansion period, we're very focused on expand your means, expand your means. And you can use some debt wisely when you're at the bottom and you know that things are going up and getting better and the debt's covered by the income that's coming in. When you're coming into a lean period like a recession, your income may come down and you've got to ask yourself, can I cover the debt? And so if you can't get out of the debt, consider while they're still available balance transfers. At least if you have a 0% for a year or 18 months, that can get your payments down, you know, much, much lower and not throw away 20, 24% on interest. And so during the last major recession, I utilized balance transfers when I couldn't pay off the debt. And that really helped me to have a lot more wiggle room without racking up, you know, interest that's very hard to get out of. So pay off the debts that you can. It's really important to get lean and to start pulling back on your expenses. You may not be able to expand your means as easily during a recession or during the recovery period. So focus first on, you know, I'd rather you pay off 20% interest rate credit cards than try to
Absolutely.
make a 20% return on the stock market to balance it out. You know, this just isn't the time to do that. So cut back on your expenses everywhere that you can. Live below your means during this time until we get on the other side of recovery.
Yeah. Then the last thing I'm trying to tell people to do is, again, I tell you, recessions are where wealth is made. The last 2 years have been relatively easy to make income. The next 2 years is, if you're prepared, you can build wealth. That's great to say, but what does it mean? It means you got to find your thing. If your thing is stocks, go all in, learn stocks. If it's, I don't care if it's crypto, NFTs, vintage sports cars, wine, trading cards, real estate, whatever it is, find what the thing you are going to become disproportionately good at and go all in. In the good times, you can be scattered and you could dabble, you could be interested. But if you want to take advantage of a recession where people sell stuff at a discount because they're illiquid and they have pain elsewhere, this is the time to become the best you can be in whatever your thing is. This is not a time to dabble. This is a time to
Absolutely.
learn. What do you think?
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And I mentioned my son earlier, but you know, he was calling me and talking about day trading. And so he's been, you know, dabbling.
I've been
And
there. I've been there.
he's 19, right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't have that much money. And so I said, you know, this is the time when you're young that you can afford to lose a little bit. You can play and you can learn, but don't be all over the place. Because one day it's, Mom, what do you think about this crypto? And then the next day it's stock options. And the next day it's, you know, I mean, he's very entrepreneurial, which I absolutely love, but it's the real estate, and then it's the
Yeah.
Airbnb. And so I'm like, you've got to get focused and not be scattered. So we just had this conversation. I was like, if you really want to day trade, this is one of the riskiest times you can possibly do that. And you don't know what you're doing. You don't have experience. You don't know what the risks are. So you're going to lose money. It's okay. But if you're going to do it, go all in terms of learning, talk to your professors and the people that are showing you what to do. But don't do it with other people's money. Do it with only
Yeah.
your own money and only money you can afford to lose. Don't leverage to do it, right? Because we talk about buying on margin and things like that. Same concepts go with real estate. Don't get yourself into a bunch of debt to buy a property if you know nothing about it before you really learn, here's my buy box, here's what the risks are, here's how I'm going to mitigate the risk, and now I'm going to put a bunch of money on the line to potentially create some rewards. So
Yeah.
you have to know really well what it is you're investing in before you can understand whether you're taking risks that are able to be mitigated in proportion to the amount of money that you're putting on the table. So
Yeah.
yeah, stick to your buy box. Absolutely. Learn everything you can. Then you'll understand when there's opportunity. You'll understand how to mitigate that risk, and you could create some potential, significant upside at the bottom.
Yeah, what I would tell anyone, whether it was your son, my niece, whoever it was that were trying to get into this, is you're not allowed to, in this case, trade $1 until you've spent 90 days going all in. And I mean all in. We're talking no more, you're not going out, you're reading, you're listening to podcasts, you're
Yes.
questioning yourself. You're going to spend, in 90 days, you probably should spend 500 hours
Yeah.
figuring it out, because you'll
Love
be
that.
shocked at the end of 500 hours what you didn't know. You're going to be able to see
Absolutely.
things. So, um, I,
Absolutely. Super
I,
important.
I was your son. So my story, as you know, I'll just put it in color for the audience. I start day trading at 19 years, or I start trading stocks the right way at 19. I see some success. I then start doing less work and using options and leverage and things of that nature. And
Right.
again, it works. I
Yes.
took 7 grand up to almost 200.
Wow.
And let me just say, by the time you're 21 or 20, almost 22, and you've done that, you think you are smarter than everybody.
Absolutely.
And then the market smashes you and you lose
Yes.
80% almost overnight. So
Yes.
I've been there.
Uh, yes. And I said, listen, you're 19. Pride comes before the fall. Don't think because you did really well on a few for, 30 days, 60 days that now you got it all figured out, you're going to go big, right? So
Oh, yeah.
well, so when you're new, you get overconfident. So realize this, have some humility, take a step back, and then be willing to take the risks and learn, but just don't get too comfortable. When you're in a market like a recession, you're in an economically volatile economy, then you've got to be really careful to understand that risk goes up significantly. So if you don't know what you're doing, if you're in the bottom moving up, you can take more risk. But if you're at the top coming down and there's still pain to go, your risk is amplified. So it comes back down to this, Michael. Don't invest in what you don't understand, and then take small risks before you take bigger risks. Don't invest what you can't afford to lose. If you can't afford to lose it and you need it to provide for your family, don't invest in it. So the last little thing I'll throw in here is make sure before you go buy other investments that you've got at least 6 months of expenses saved. And, investment advisors will say 3 to 12 months, 6 months minimum, ideally a year. Heading into a recession, don't go spend your last dollar to buy the next property. If you don't have enough to sustain your family, especially if you're a sole breadwinner in your family and you lose a job, you might get unemployment, but you might not have enough to cover your expenses. So save 6 months expenses, only invest what you can afford to lose above that.
And then what I will close with is, if you ever think you're smarter than Warren Buffett, sell all your stocks and go to cash, because you're not smarter than Warren Buffett. Anna, where can people find you?
I agree. You can find me on social media, Anna Kelly, REI Mom, on my website at reimom.com, and here every week on your show.
Thank you so much.